What's going on, guys? I had a couple of requests for a walkthrough video for the sump room fish area, such as it is, and I made a couple of changes to the sump area, so I thought now would be a great time to update everyone on sort of what's going on down here. There's a few big changes in how I'm doing things down here. And I'll walk you through all of that. If you haven't seen my other videos, this is my sump area. It's sort of a section of my unfinished basement, which is a mess with my daughter's toys. We are going to finish half of the basement in the next few months. We have to re-roof the house, which is an expense I knew we were going to have to deal with when we bought the house. But we're installing solar panels in October, which I'm incredibly excited about. And if you know anything about solar, please feel free to comment and let me know your thoughts. We're putting in a 15 kilowatt system on our roof, which I think is just about going to offset all of our electricity needs, if not more than offset our electricity needs. And I would love to look into something like a Tesla battery or two, a Powerwall down the road. So if you're familiar with that stuff, please feel free to chime in the comments and let me know. But long story short, the roof project and solar project have just bumped the basement project a little bit, but not permanently, just sort of set it back maybe 6 months a lot later than we wanted to, or a year later than we wanted to. So we're going to get started on that soon. So this area that my fish area will be a fish room. It'll be a separate room in the basement soon. So that was a long way of getting there. But so basically, if you're not familiar, the tank sits there between that jack post and about this I-beam is where the tank is sitting, and you can actually see, if it helps give you sort of a frame of reference, there's the plumbing that comes down the far end of my Peninsula tank. So I think the end of the tank is sitting almost exactly on this I-beam, and the other end of the tank is just before that the jack post. So the water comes down here. The three hard PVC pipes are the three drains. The emergency drain goes there and then loudly spills into the sump, so I know if there's a problem. And then the full siphon and partial siphon come over here, where I teed them off, and I have these ball valves, so if I want to do a water change down here, I could drain 20 gallons of water out of this sort of reservoir tank. I have this 30-gallon high tank that sits here. I just open this ball valve here, and it drains all the way down to this bulkhead. And if I want to do that without turning off the return pump, I can isolate these two tanks, the drain tank and the Refugium and the frag tank. Actually, all three of them would be isolated off of the system just by opening these ball valves here and closing these ball valves here. It isolates this end of the system. The water just flows down here into this sump, and then down into the lowest level of the sump, which is a 40-gallon breeder down there. So following the path of the water, right now those ball valves are closed. The water flows over. Everything spills into this tank. This is sort of my catch-all tank. It's I think 30-gallon tank. And the only reason I use this is because I already had it and it was already drilled for most of these bulkheads. But it's kind of become my like Frankenstein reservoir tank. And then the water flows down into just a trickle of water really into this frag tank. I'll talk about that more in a second. There's a valve that drains right over into my sump crock over there and out of the back of the house. I don't like putting a lot of salt water into the septic tank, so if I can do water changes out that way, I prefer to. And then this 40 breeder acts as the Refugium, and as you can see, I am growing a ton of Caulerpa in here. I've tried Cato. It doesn't grow great for me, but this Caulerpa grows like crazy and hasn't caused any problems in the tank upstairs. I've got a bunch of tangs and whatnot. And so it's worked so far, and it actually needs to get trimmed down. I use this eBay, I think it's called a UFO. It's for horticulture, sort of a magenta color, and it works like crazy because this, I mean, it's a massive beach ball sized, and it's dense ball of caulerpa. Then the water flows over. I put unions on there in case I needed to ever take it apart. Into here, I use this tablet as my Apex homepage, as you can see. Turn things on and off from there. Here is the protein skimmer, and one of the I made 2 changes today. One of the changes is, in an attempt to just raise the pH a little bit, I ran a line up, and you're going to lose it here, but it goes out, and I drilled a hole through the sill plate on the house, and then sort of put a 1-inch piece of flexible PVC with a 90-degree adapter and like a bulkhead strainer on the end of it to keep bugs and whatnot from getting in there. And that has done 2 things. It has really quieted down the skimmer significantly, which you probably can't tell because the exhaust fan is running right now. I have an exhaust fan on a timer up there, blowing some of this moist air out of the house, out of the basement. So that's running right now, and I'm currently making water, which is, so you're probably hearing a lot right now, but the protein skimmer is significantly quieter. And the other part is it has dramatically increased the pH, which I'll talk about more in a minute. A couple of weeks ago, I got rid of the float switch on the cup and started filling this with skimmate, and I have a float switch in there that is programmed through the Apex, so it just shuts it off. It shuts off the skimmer when that bad boy is full. I get a notification, and I know that I need to empty it. It usually takes about a week or so to fill that up. This is my sort of testing and maintenance area right here. My Jabo dosing pump, which is currently doing bulk reef supply, 2-part calcium, alkalinity, Nopox, and kalkwasser. So then, just sort of following the path of the water, it then flows down into this 40 breeder, which has drains for the main display, which is the big drain. The 3/4 inch is the frag tank, and the 1 inch is the 25-gallon cube that's upstairs in the living room. And then the water flows into the Reef flow, hammerhead, barracuda hybrid. I think I have the bigger impeller in right now, but I'm actually going to switch it out for the smaller one, and I'll explain why in a second. The water travels up the flexible PVC into my manifold. The first outlet on the manifold feeds the UV sterilizer. The clips that came with this is the Coral Life Turbo Twist 36-watt UV sterilizer. One of the big problems with these is that the inside of them rusts. They have like this chrome foil interior that's supposed to reflect the UV light, and it rusts and disintegrates. And so I called Coral Life, and they sent me a new body that is just plastic. So it solved the major problem that these things have. The other problem is the clips broke. They were junk, and so I'm just sort of hanging it on these 4-inch PVC hooks. And I use the Apex FMM, the flow monitoring module, to tell me how many gallons per hour going through there. I usually shoot for like 75 gallons per hour through there. I have had 0 issues with ick or LG or any of those things since I started running the UV sterilizer. So I know that it's a controversial topic. Lots of people are very strongly opposed to them. However, as sort of a prophylactic, it has done a great job for me. And there you can see the FMM. The other modules are the big 1-inch flow sensor and a leak detection module, and the PMUP, which I'll talk about in a second. Carbon reactor, and then this last one is just empty. There's nothing. I just have the hose sort of running down in back there. It doesn't have any water coming out of it. The water then flows up and around, and some of it gets diverted off from this T in that small hose to the 25-gallon cube. That's the return line for the 25-gallon cube, which has its own ball valve, so I have that flow turned down a lot. And then this T controls the main flow going back up to the display tank and the 1-inch flow sensor. I have found that if I get anything over 200 gallons per hour going to the display tank, or maybe over 250 gallons per hour, at least according to this monitor, my overflow, the Reef Savvy Ghost overflow, no, that's a lie, the Synergy Reef overflow starts to get loud. And I was having a lot of issues with the water level rising and falling in the external box. And so I have used this ball valve to dial back that flow significantly, and it has made the tank upstairs nearly dead quiet. So I don't know if that 250 gallons per hour is accurate, given the size of my return pump, but the one thing I will say about the FMM is, at the very least, it gives me a number to go off of. Whether that number is correct, like right now it says 219 gallons per hour. I don't know if that number is correct or not, but it is a baseline number that I can work off of. Oh, and as you can see, the pH is sitting at 8.3 right now, since I am running this airline outside. The dosing pump also just dosed some kalkwasser, which has brought it up a little bit. It was sitting more like 8.2-ish. But that has had an impact for sure. It's brought it up about 1/10 of a point. And so then the flow water just returns back upstairs. One quick thing, and I'll probably get to this now that the weather is turning. I am all set to run an independent circuit for this area on a 20 amp breaker. It's a GFCI breaker. I have all of the stuff. It's all sitting right here. I just haven't done it because I've been enjoying summer and being outside. But now that the weather's starting to turn, I'll take a rainy day and wire up outlets. I'm thinking about 4 or so outlets, or 4 boxes with 2 outlets each, so 8 outlets total, sort of along each of these areas, because right now it is an embarrassing string of power strips that have all got to go. So that'll happen. It's on the docket. I just haven't gotten to it yet. Coming over here, the other major change is I was using one of these Red Sea Coral Pro Salt buckets, which I don't think are even 5 gallons. I think they're more like 3 or 4 gallons, as my kalkwasser reservoir. And I just got done plumbing this bad boy up, which is a 13.5 gallon garbage can, which I had in the garage that I wasn't using, and I thought, oh, this will be perfect. And let's see if I can get a shot of what I did. I had a, let's see, there she is. It is a 1/2 inch to 1/4 inch push connect, and then on the bottom, I can't show you because it's kalkwasser and it's not transparent, but I used a 1/2 inch fitting on the other side and just tightened it down, and with Teflon tape, and it's watertight so far, so we'll keep an eye on that. And then the light stopped working on this, and then I took it apart and dried it off. It was a little wet on the inside, probably from humidity, and it's now working again. So I will get back to fragging some corals, and because everything sort of took a massive hit. What little was in here took a massive hit when I didn't have a light for a while. There is a yellow mimic tang who is actually very friendly. She comes right up to my hand when I put it in the tank. She's in there, and that's it. That's all that's in there, and some corals that look less than awesome because I went a couple of weeks without a light, and they took a hit. So, but I guess generally that's it. The 2 main changes are running the airline outside, which has helped. It has definitely made a difference on the pH so far, and changing the kalkwasser reservoir. So, and getting this light working again, which was a bonus. So, feel free to hit me with comments. This went a little longer than I expected. Apparently there's more down here to talk about. Oh, I guess let me talk about this real quickly. It is time to change my filters. As you can probably see in the video how dirty that is. And these, I need to change out the DI resin as well. But I am currently making water, so this is my saltwater bucket, and this is my freshwater bucket, and it is currently filling. There she is. I have a booster pump, so it doesn't take too terribly long. I keep my salt in there. And having the utility sink is clutch for all of these projects when I need somewhere to put water. And there's my test kits. I test alkalinity daily with the Hannah checker. I test calcium and magnesium when I get around to it. Everything, calcium's 420, magnesium's 1350, and the alkalinity sits just around 9 exactly. Phosphate says 0, but I'm not sure if I trust the checker or those reagents. I feel like after a while the reagents are less accurate. And then just my shelf of junk. If anyone's looking for Jabo dosers, got a couple of those I can get rid of. I've got a Jabo DCT 15,000 that is just sitting there that needs to go. So feel free to message me if you're looking for either of those. But yeah, that's it. So if you have questions, feel free to comment or whatever, and I will answer them to the best of my ability. And that's sort of my fish room. It's a lot to run through, but I think at least it makes sense to me. So have a good weekend, guys. See you.